Well, it's time to rock and roll, as Rosemary says, with Tips Tuesday. I'm Laura Rubenstein. Hi, Rosemary O'Neill.
Hi, Laura. Good to see you.
Great to see you once again for our Tips Tuesday. We have so much fun here and we give great information, at least we hope we do. And if you have something you need or want, put it in the comments here on Transform Today Inc.'s page, Facebook page, on the comments of this video. I will be going and checking that out for us today. And what we thought we'd talk about is a subject I think is near and dear to both of our hearts, and project management tools. How are we using them? What are we excited about? And in terms of what do we like using, right, Rosemary?
That's important because you're spending such a big chunk of your day organizing stuff and doing your tasks. And if you're using something that's not fun or not engaging, it just kind of drags you down, doesn't it?
It does. And, project management tools, a lot of people start them really excited, right? And then what happens? They stop using it. Have you ever had that happen?
Oh, yes. I like to call it hairy beast mode. You get in there and then you realize you have to feed this hairy beast every day with all these data points. So to me, that's the first thing I always look at. How much data am I going to need in the future? And what do I want to put in this thing? Do I want to be feeding this beast?
Right. Feed the beast. So the beast has to be fed, otherwise it dies on the vine. And then I've had people say, oh, but project management, that tool didn't work for me. The tools don't work. You work the tools. Sorry
Amen.
to say, sorry to say. And that's why a lot of times you need someone to be in charge of project management. This is my philosophy. Because if you don't have someone like mushing the horse saying, let's do it, keep bringing them back to center, meaning like, okay, use the tool. Did you put it in the tool? Did you put that task in there? Did you check it off? Did it? And people are like, eh. But what happens when you're all using it and playing nice together? Rosemary, what happens?
Oh, if you're doing it nicely, playing nicely together, then it actually propels you forward and it does what it's supposed to be doing.
I know, right? It's like, so we don't want to resist the beast. We want to play with the beast, feed the beast. The beast is our friend.
That's a good point, though. You have to have buy-in from the whole team that's going to be using it. You cannot, I've seen so many times one person on the team gets excited about a certain tool or they used it elsewhere and they want to bring it in. If you don't have everybody committed to doing this, it's just going to fall on its face.
Right. So it's a bummer if one person doesn't buy in, because it dismantles the whole thing. It really, especially, and I hate to say it, if it's from the top. It really can't get energized if the leadership isn't actively involved, participating, or helping out, at least supporting it. Because unless leadership is in a backseat role in the company and in the projects.
Absolutely. And so that kind of leads me to another thing I always look for is the reporting. Because those people that are using it day to day need to have a way to get buy-in from the upper levels. If they're actively using it themselves or not, you have to be able to show them the value of it and that you're actually moving forward on your tasks and your projects. So if it doesn't have any way to demonstrate that, either in a visual way or email or something, that's another kind of fail point I've seen.
Yeah. And so we are talking about this on Transform Today's Facebook page. And that is such an important point. We must have everybody's buy-in. We must have people using it. It will ruin the integrity, right, of the project management system if we're not all using it. And then it has to be well designed. So have a project manager that you fully empower,
Yes.
and then you report on it. Because then you can see who's faltering. And it's not like you want to make them wrong, but you want to help them understand. And I've been on teams where I say, okay, if this project management system isn't working, what will you be willing to do? So maybe you don't go full on with, there's Asana, there's Monday, there's Flow, there's all kinds of project managers, there's Basecamp, and maybe you use it for a certain purpose, but you all agree on it, and you all agree how communication is going to happen through it, when you put things in, who put those things in, who checks them off, how they work. Document that, please, so that if somebody forgets, you can say, I'm not sure you um, understood how to use it, but here again is the procedure if you need me to go over it physically with you, if you want to review it with me so you make sure you're getting it, great. Do that. Take the time up front or somewhere in between to make sure your people know, whoever is involved. And sometimes you're just using the project management for yourself. And again, the same thing applies, consistency, right?
Exactly. Yep. And different platforms are better for one person teams than other ones too. So, maybe you only need something like a Trello where you're just going to sit there and move the cards and do your own thing. But you don't want to just do nothing. A lot of people can handle it with just a piece of paper and a pencil. Go for it. But you still, even with that system, you have to be diligent and check the things off and reevaluate every day or every week what your goals are and what you're actually progressing
So
towards.
Trello is really popular right now, and I think it's good for projects. Tell me what you use it for and how you use it.
For me, Trello, and this is a weird use case, but maybe someone else will have the same weird use case.
Yeah.
Um, I have a couple different platforms that I use from a work perspective, Basecamp primarily and Flow. And for me, on a personal level, those didn't scratch my visual itch. So, and I know you like sticky notes. I love sticky notes too. Um, for me, the satisfaction of moving those through the pipeline that I design is very, very satisfying. And I'll even go back and add things after the fact so that I can check them off and move them. I'm that crazy. But so for me, Rosemary, I like the visual aspect of Trello. It just really gets it for me.
Yeah, a lot of people do like the ability to move to columns, and the use case again is what are you moving from what column to what column?
So that's the cool thing. You can set up the columns however you want. Some people use them as a time frame breakdown. So it could be things I have to do today, tomorrow, next week, and never, someday. Some people use it. And, you know, philosophically, if you're using something like getting things done as a system, or if you're using some other system like that, you can set up the columns to kind of work with whatever system you're using. Some people use it because you can actually, it doesn't have to be a single person. You can use it to actually communicate notes to another person and then use your columns that way. I've reviewed this or I haven't reviewed this yet. So the flexibility of it is pretty cool.
So what you're getting at is that when we say use cases, it's like you don't have to design a project management system for everything. I mean, you could if you've got a full-time project manager, if you've got full team buy-in, then yes, you want a full system, but maybe you have an area that's a little that needs wheeling in or reeling in and needs to get under control and needs better communication. So like you said, an approval process or tracking of certain project tasks that need to get done. Could be regular tasks. I know that in the Facebook ads world, I've used Facebook to approve ads to see what the team's working on and then to approve them and then to go ahead and make in each Trello card, I guess they're called, you can keep track of notes within them, whether it's logins or dates that these are going to be published or changes you want made, and the communication can happen back and forth in this one card. And then when it's done, you put it in an archive column or you to be published column. And it's an alternative, in fact, to a social media management tool. It doesn't do the posting for you, but it can certainly do the management part where you're designing, you have a graphic person designing your images, somebody's writing the copy, somebody's posting it, right? So it's a good workspace and it's free. There is a paid version, but the free version does a lot of that functionality, right?
Yeah, free is always good.
That's what we talked about last week with Evernote. So Evernote's also a good place you can document those SOPs, the procedures, the standard operating procedures for people to reference. You can then put links to them in Trello. You can have a whole resources, um, Trello card that links back to where everything is housed. That's the main thing I think find people have a hard time finding things, where things are. So yes, you can use spreadsheets, Google Sheets, Docs. I mean, that's kind of the basics. You just have to have a system that's clearly documented and everybody understands. Otherwise, it will break down and then everybody has to agree to do it. So in the very beginning, when you're creating this system of how we're going to get stuff done and communicate about our piece of it, is agreement on, does this really work for you? Can you see yourself doing this? If it's sending an email when it's done, or if it's checking off something when it's done. And I use a project management tool called Asana, and I think originally it was going to be called Asana, like the yoga poses, but everybody calls it Asana now, but it doesn't matter what you call it. The
I didn't
company
know that.
both. They've given up to the masses that now say asana. And to me, it's like a way to differentiate that. I do asanas, which are yoga poses, and then I have asana, which is my project management. Let's keep the worlds divided. I'm good with that. Anybody else?
Yeah, only Siri really cares, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And even
When
Siri
it's
sometimes
saying,
can learn. So hopefully we can train Siri up and get that done. So I love Asana for both individual, my personal, I'll keep track of things. And it's kind of like my personal to-do list, and you can make sections in a project. I can create a project per project, I guess per client, and then have multiple projects in there. And we can assign tasks to people. We can have threads within there. You can upload um, files to be checked out by people, and the files can be PDFs, docs, spreadsheets, and images. So again, like a Trello, and you can set it up actually as a Trello board. There's two ways to look at it, as a to-do list and as a what they call a Kanban, which is that Trello
right,
card system, right? So there are lots of other tools out there. Basecamp is basic, um, and it's good for getting email to people and housing. Also, you can house documentation in there. You can assign to-dos, which send out emails that things are due and notification that things are happening. So it's what I mean by basic is it's not hard to use. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the interface is a little cutesy, and it doesn't have any time tracking, time management functionality. So that's a big differentiator. If you really need that time tracking, then I would look at something else. Asana does that, right?
You can buy something that goes with Asana to do that. It doesn't inherently do it. What do you use to track time?
We actually don't. It's really the developers who are more kind of on that wavelength, and they're using Jira as their primary tracking system.
Yeah, so
So
that's an advanced, very complicated software development tool, tracking tool when you're kind of on the Scrum method, is that right? For doing sprints, and which are short-term 1 to 2 week projects that you're really focused on, and nothing else gets on the list except what's in that sprint, as they
they're
say.
very disciplined. We could all be inspired by how the developers have attacked this project management angle.
Yeah, and you have to be, and they've learned that that works. So from the very first point we made, this is the foundation of project management, is what Scrum is you all have to agree on the system, and you all have to stick to it and be vigorous, vigilant, whatever you want to call it, rigorous, that's the word, not vigorous,
Yeah.
rigorous to it, and help each other out with it. The Scrum methodology has a very strict protocol where you have stand-up meetings every morning for 15 minutes, no more, usually not less, and you have different roles. Not only do you have like a project manager, but you have someone who that project manager knows exactly what to do and what they're in charge of, and you have a project owner, which is different. The owner sets the vision, for the whole project. The Scrum Master, who is the project manager basically of that's of the sprints, are keeping you in track. And if things come up that are off sprint, you put them in the parking lot for the next sprint. And you, at the end of your week or your end of your 2 week sprint, you discuss what's in the parking lot. I think they call it the parking lot. But anyway, it's something you do and you stay on track. And I've heard of people using this from building a house to building software, and it works in many different applications. There's a great book called Scrum out there, that SCRUM, that I listen to on Audible. It's available in print if you like to read, on Kindle. Excellent overview of the Scrum process, where it came from, how it works, how it's transformed projects and gotten things done in record time compared to the olden days when you did a waterfall method, a Gantt chart.
Yes.
They proved that Gantt charts don't work.
That's good because I hate them.
So if you're hoping I would say, how do how do you make your Gantt chart work? I don't have an answer for that. So I would rather see you do things like the Scrum methodology, try it out, take a piece of it, at least do those 15-minute morning meetings, and they're very succinct. They're very about what got done towards the sprint, what didn't get done, and what roadblocks do you have. That's it. That's all you talk about. If you have discussion items, you make appointments with the individuals who can help you. The roadblocks, though, if you mention them, then that's when you make the Scrum Master. That's the other job of the Scrum Master, is to clear those roadblocks. So to connect the dots for you, help you get done what you need to get done. So everybody's very clear on their tasks in the beginning of the week. You're setting the tasks up, or at the end of the week, I think, for the next week, you're setting those tasks up. So it's, like you said, it's very rigorous, and they're very diligent. Did you say to that? What are your programmers?
Yeah, they are diligent and they're very focused. And to me, the inspiration I take is I like the idea of every single morning, you could almost have a stand up with yourself, regardless of the system you're using, if you're using Scrum or not, and just look through your tasks and what are you going to do today? Do you have any roadblocks or challenges? And they do the stories to describe exactly what they're doing and why. And I think some of those things you could adapt even without going to the detailed level of really learning the ins and outs of Scrum methodology.
Yeah, and you don't need to, unless this has intrigued you and you want to get into it, and you have a big organization or an organization, even a small startup organization can benefit from this. And your whole organization buys in once again, because especially the leadership, if leadership doesn't buy in, you are going to be feeling like you're swimming upstream, and that's when you say it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work if the right people don't buy in, meaning everybody. You are the right people. So
Exactly. And also I'd say if you keep having meetings about the platform or technology you're using for project management, it's not working. Time to look for something else.
yeah, there's a balance here between running from tool to tool to sticking with one and working it out. So I also want to encourage and invite you that, okay, well, maybe it's not just, it may be an okay tool. So like any good software project, you want to put the requirements up front. If somebody's not willing to play, then they can't be a bottleneck in the project, right?
Sure.
So you have to be clear what you need from them. And if you're clear, then you can say, if we need this from you and you're not willing to play on a project management tool, then how are we going to get this from you? And know when you're complete, and know when you need something from us, and know, well, it just happens. So if it's an organic, that can be fine. You may just want to use a series of, go with what's natural for those people. We're not going to make them wrong, and we're not going to make the project management tool wrong. So if somebody's more organic, just look at their pattern.
Right. If they like to use email a lot of the platforms will let you email into them and things like that. So look, I totally agree. Look for the pathway in for that person. And or maybe they have a nerdy colleague who loves to check things off and they could have that person record them in the database. Like
Yeah.
you can get creative, I think.
Have a solo stand up just for the purpose of completing the task, and have it with an assistant who can get that done for you, ask you the questions, ask for the details they need, and get it done. And your project management time is taken up in those 20 minutes with your assistant. Get it done. And if there's projects you need to keep, that are going to take you longer, or tasks you're going to need to take longer, the assistant notes that in the system, their response, as if they are your extra brain type of thing, doing the work for you. So we've talked about Asana, we've talked about Basecamp, we've talked about Trello. Is there any other tools you love?
We use Flow also for a different project, and I actually really like it. It has a nice clean interface. I actually prefer the interface to that of Basecamp. It is a little more wonky in terms of setting up different projects and sections and categories, and there's a lot of layers to it. So I would just say with Flow, you really have to have a very clear idea in your mind of what it is you're managing before you start creating things. It will support pretty much soup to nuts, but you could let it become a hairy beast if you get too carried away with the tagging and the categories and the projects. But I love it. It actually will also let you look at things in either a linear way or a calendar or the Kanban format as well, which I really
Nice.
like. Yeah.
Sounds very flexible,
Mm-hmm.
very robust. You were saying Basecamp is a little cutesy. It's pretty old school. I don't think the design has changed in
A long time.
18 years. They designed it one way and they really haven't updated it. I think if they did, they might get a lot of pushback from their current users because they're very used to it and used to the way things flow. So maybe that's it. I don't know. So on Flow, it looks like a very modern design. And so you've got that. And so what was I going to say? There's Airtable. Now, Airtable isn't necessarily a project management tool, but you can use it to manage projects. It's like Google Sheets on steroids. So you can use it in conjunction with a project management tool to have different rows and columns kind of talk to each other. It takes a little bit to learn, but it is touted as easy to learn once you get the way it works. I've used it to keep track of hours, to keep track of tasks, to do whatever you can do in a spreadsheet, a lot of directory type of things that you want to keep track of resources. Have you used it at all?
I kind of popped in and checked it out one time during my travels, and it just didn't look like something that would work for me. But yeah, it definitely comes up a lot in the conversation. I know there are a lot of people who are crazy about it.
I would call it a good asset tracker.
Mm.
So a place to put in links, a place to put in phone numbers, emails, contacts, project asset, logs, that kind of thing. So that's one of the ways I'm using it. I know there are people who are like probably making a living off of setting up Airtable. There are tons and tons of tools. If you ever have a tool you love and you want to put it in the area here below, go ahead and do that. We would love to make this a community effort on supporting each other in project management. I wanted to cover today basics about project management, like solid foundational stuff. I'll give you a few tools to check out. And if you have any questions or if my team can help you with project management, let me know. I do that for clients often. We get their projects done. We help coordinate things, and we love doing it because sometimes you need help. Sometimes you need.
Everybody needs help sometimes, yes. I'm anxious to hear what the community comes up with in terms of other platforms, because I'm definitely interested in new ideas and new ways of doing project management. So
And you
bring
don't
it on.
necessarily have to use one, but don't let the beast overcome you. So it can be a slippery slope. I feel your pain, and let's just make something that works by starting holistically with what already works with you naturally. And if that's the case, then we start with a basic system that could be just how are we going to communicate? And then where are we going to store stuff? And then
Mhm.
what organization, like what file folder type organization. And then we make sure everybody gets it. Everybody's fully communicated, everybody's on board, and everybody's using it. If everybody wants to do their own thing, I have bad news for you. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to be like, where is it? Oh, I emailed it to you. No, you were supposed to put it in the folder here. Oh, and then it turns out they never emailed it to you. They just thought they did. There's no record of it. There's no tracking. There's no, there's no accountability. So be sure to put that in how everyone agrees to communicate and add their tasks and complete their tasks. Woohoo!
Then
Thank you.
everyone has to pinky swear, right?
Pinky swear. And you know what? If it's not working, don't avoid it. Just cop to it. Say, hey, I didn't do it this week. It's not really working for me. Maybe it's either me and I'll never be able to do it. Not never, but it's really, there's something in me that's resisting it. So I'm wondering if we could look at another way. And I don't have the answer to that. You don't have to have the answers, but if you bring the problem to the team, like in your stand-up meeting or in your weekly meeting or however many meetings you have, and I do recommend some meetings, don't go overboard with the meetings, but to check in on how the project management is going in particular. Like, are we keeping track? Did everybody do this, this, and this? Repetition is good for humans to make sure things get working. So go be human. Have fun project managing. Any last tips you have, Rosemary, or advice?
I would just say, don't feed the beast. Let the beast help you. Ride on the beast's back, right? What's the opposite?
Ride the beast, direct the beast, create the beast, tame the beast. How about
Tame the
that?
beast. There we
Tame
go.
the beast. Knew we'd come up with it at some point, which is great. So, and if we can help you, we're here to help you organize both your getting your content out there through narrative.org and being able to publish it and then to get it distributed through socialbuzzclub.com. We really appreciate all of your support, and we'll be back with you next week with another tip. Put your questions in and here at Transform Today, it's Facebook on the video, and we will chat with you again soon. Great being with you, Rosemary.
Thank you. Have a great week, everyone.